Howdy do y'all, this is John, and today we're talking about The Mummy, a movie that came out back in 1932 starring Boris Karloff. And in The Mummy, it deals with this mummy who comes back to life and goes on a quest to resurrect his girlfriend, and these two archaeologists trying to stop him because he's kind of evil. Okay, getting into it. This is a good story. One that has aged very well and has even been used in a remake in the late 90s that I grew up with. And just like the remake, I grew up with this original film too. However, I'd like to point out that the two movies, technically speaking, are very different, but they both basically have the same core story. Since I am reviewing the original, I'm going to focus on the original. Boris Karloff as the Mummy. For those of you who don't know who Karloff is, he was to the 1930s what Ian White or Doug Jones is today. He was the go-to guy with portraying creatures and monsters at the time. And that's because at the time he was arguably the best actor for it. Now you did have Lon Chaney, who unfortunately passed away a couple years before this movie was made. But he was like the silent era Karloff. Karloff was the go-to guy when sound films started being made. And that's because he's really good at it. All these years later, 100 years later, you still get this sense of intensity from Karloff. And really, the whole cast is good for the time, because acting back then is not the same as it is today. Today, there's a lot more emotion involved. Back then, it was more theatrical. However, if you want to get technical, the cast is still good. Now, because the movie's nearly 100 years old, there is some stuff that hasn't really aged that well. Just like with the Bela Lugosi Dracula, the effects haven't aged that well. Although, unlike in Bela Lugosi's Dracula, you don't see strains hanging around. So yeah, some of the technical stuff hasn't aged that well. But as it stands as a movie, this is still a good movie. Partially because the narrative is still good. I'm gonna give The Mummy an 8. Next year, I'll try to remember to review the Brandon Fraser Mummy if I can. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, please remember, the Bodetsky will return.